So in this video, we're going to talk about the show me, tell me questions. The examiner will ask you two questions, one at the beginning of the test and one during the test. Now, if you do get these questions wrong, it will normally be a driver fault or a minor, but it could very easily be a serious or even a dangerous fault, so a major fault, on the show me question on the move if when you're doing that particular action, you're losing control of the vehicle or missing information. So it's very important that you know the layout of your vehicle. So if the examiner were to ask you to demist the front windscreen, for instance, you want to be able just to press the button or turn the dials without staring down here, because if you veer off of course or you miss information out in front of you, that will be a serious or a dangerous fault. Now, if you are unsure how to do that, the examiner will ask you to pull over on the side of the road. They will ask or show you how it should be done, and then they will ask you to do that action again. So to save yourself that stress, really important that you know the layout of your vehicle to the point that you can do it blindfolded. So the video that you're going to see now is specific for a vehicle, and if you do have any questions, feel free to put a comment in the comment section below, and I'll help as soon as I can. So the first thing that you would do is switch the engine on and operate the foot brake, and it shouldn't feel spongy or slack. Also, the car shouldn't pull to one side when braking. So if you were to use the brakes and the car swerved to the left or to the right, then we would know that there is a fault with one side of your car's brakes. Correct. So the first thing that you would do is look in the owner's manual and check what the tyre pressure should be. So for instance, on this vehicle it's 29 psi. The next thing you do is unscrew the dust cap, use a good quality pressure gauge, put it on the valve of the tyre, and it should read the same as the tyre pressure in the owner's manual. Remember to put the dust cap back on. Check your spare tyre if you have one as well. And it's important that you check when the tyres are cold, so before a journey. The reason for that is because as you drive, the tyres get hotter, and being a gas, the gas will expand and give you a false reading. So to adjust your head restraint, you would use the buttons, whether it's on the side or on the actual pillar itself. On this car, it's on the pillar. You squeeze that, and then you can move the head restraint up and down. And you want to set it so that your eye level is in the center of the pad. If it's also adjustable back to front as well, you want it as close to your head as possible without touching it. So using a tread depth gauge, whether it's a digital one or an analog one, you then put that into the groove of the tyres, and it should show you that it is at least 1.6 millimeters over the entire middle 3/4 of the tyre. So if we look at the tyre as a whole, from here to here, this section should be at least 1.6 millimeters. These bits don't matter as much, but you should not be able to see the banding of the canvas. So if you can see like a brown material there, then that tyre is illegal. Also, on the sides of the tyre, there should be no deep cuts or bulges. So on your test, you would say at least 1.6 millimeters depth of tread over the middle 3/4 of the tyre, and there should be no deep cuts or bulges on the sides of the tyre. So you would twist the stalk on the left hand side so that your dip beams are on. That will also turn on your tail lights, and then you walk around the car. You should have 2 at the front and 2 at the back. So to check that your anti-lock braking system is working, you would put the ignition on to the first click, and the ABS light should turn on. After a few seconds, it should then turn off. If it stays illuminated, there is a fault. So to check your direction indicators are working, there's 2 ways of doing that. You can either use the indicator stalk, so click down, check the left hand side of the car, then do the right for the right hand side, Or to make life a little bit easier, use the hazard lights, and then all 6 lights will flash on the car. So there are 2 at the front, 2 on the sides on this car on the wing mirrors, and 2 at the back. To check your brake lights are working, you would either reverse near an object to look for the reflections or ask someone to go to the back of your vehicle to check. You would then have your key on ignition normally. On this car you don't have to though. Put your foot on the brake and the brake light should turn on. So to check your power steering is working, pull down with one hand while switching the engine on with the other, and the steering should go nice and light. If you are unable to do that, so you've got an upper limb disability and you can only use one arm, that's fine. You would just switch the engine on and make sure that the steering wheel is nice and light. Also, it shouldn't go heavy while driving. To turn on your rear fog light, you would turn your lights on first by twisting the left stalk. Then there's an inner ring. The first time you click that turns on the front fog lights, and the second click turns on the rear as well. So the orange light turns up on the dashboard. And we use the rear fog light when visibility is less than 100 meters. To switch from dipped beam to main beam headlights, you would turn on your dipped beam by twisting the left stalk all the way before you then push the stalk away from you. And then the blue light should illuminate on the dashboard to warn you that your main beams are on. So to open the bonnet from inside the car, there's a lever just down here and you pull that to do the first catch. So you're going to pull up with your left hand first of all. You're going to slide the catch from the right to the left. Take the bonnet up, prop out, and then put it in the hole there. To close the bonnet, push up again with your right hand slightly, take the prop out, make sure it goes back in the clip again. Take it so it's about a hand span from the bottom, and then just drop it. You will get some people that tell you to put it down and then push it down. Personally, I don't advise it. Sometimes it doesn't catch properly, but also you can dent the bonnet as well. It's quite thin metal, so by doing the drop, it just saves that damage to your car as well. So to check your brake fluid level is this one here, and it should be between the min and max marks. To check your engine coolant level is this one here, and again it should be between the min and max marks. So to check that you have sufficient oil, it's important to remember you don't have to do this, but it's important to know how to do it. You take the dipstick out, you clean it with a clean dry cloth, put it back in again. It's normally a little bit fiddly, and take it back out, and it should be between the min and max marks. So we can see the 2 dots here and here, the min mark and the max mark. So as long as it's in between those 2 levels, then you have sufficient amount. You would then make sure that you put it in completely so it airlocks too. So we're now going to talk about the show me question on the move. The examiner will ask you one question that needs to be performed safely and in control. It is important that you do know where all of the buttons are, so you're not staring at them trying to work out what you need to do. And do it in a safe place. Don't do it on a bend, for instance, or on a tight bit of road. Wait until later. It doesn't have to be exercised instantly. Now, you can get a serious fault if you do swerve or if you do not know what's going on in front of you. So please, please, please watch this video, ask any questions that you need, and I'll help as much as I can. If you are having to use a secondary control, so clients with a disability to their upper limbs, the examiner will not ask you a question which is not able to be done on your secondary control. So they will not ask you to do the demisters. They will not ask you to operate the side windows either. They can ask you to wash the front and rear windows, to turn on your lights, and to sound the horn. it's really important, like we said before, that you are looking forward and not staring at the buttons. You need to make sure that you're keeping the car straight. So one of the questions they could ask you to do is to turn on your dipped beams. So when it's safe to do so, don't do it if it looks like you could be flashing. So if there's an oncoming vehicle, for instance, that wants to turn right, don't do it at that moment. Okay, we want to make sure that they don't think you're telling them to go. And when it is safe, all you've got to do is just to twist to the second click, and then that turns on your dipped beams. So the next question they could ask you to do is to sound your horn. Make sure you do this when there's not people walking nearby that can be startled or scared by it. Make sure that you are again in control of the car, so try not to do it on bends. And when it is safe, all you got to do is a little beep. So they could ask you to wash the front windscreen, and that's done by pulling the lever on the right hand side towards. It will spray first, and then the windscreen wipers will start to wipe. When you do that, again, make sure you're not trying to go through a tight little bit of road, because you will be blinded for a second until the windscreen wipers turn on. So they could ask you to wash the rear window. So to do that, all you've got to do is push this stalk away from you. It will spray first, then it will start to wipe, and then when it starts to wipe, you let go. Remember, they will turn themselves off. You don't have to do anything manually yourself. So the next question that the examiner could ask is for you to demist the front windscreen. On this car, it's nice and easy. It's just one button. So all you've got to do is just push that button there, so the orange light turns on. The next question the examiner could ask is to demist the rear. And again, it's just one button. So you push this button here, so the orange light turns on. So the final question the examiner could ask you is to open and close a window. It doesn't make a difference which window you do. For the purpose of this, I'll show you the driver's one, which is this top corner window button here. And all you do is just push it all the way down, and it will go automatically. To do it up, you then do exactly the same thing. Again, try to look out the windscreen if possible.